What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Dustin. If it's your first time joining me on the channel, well, this is my tiny little fabrication shop. We build boats from scratch, trailers from scratch. We wire all kinds of things DC that would go into a boat or a trailer or anything that we can come across. As well as we run a couple different YouTube channels. This one being the 1%er channel. The man or woman who decides that they have to do something on their own and they need a little help from YouTube. That's why I'm here and that's why you're here too. So go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, and let's get into today's video. Meltaring, a branded product of 3-to-1 heat shrink that is a solder connection. Okay, optimistic about that. Wanted to not only introduce me to their product, but they wanted to introduce you to the product as well. So, before I even open the box, I will let everyone know that this is a paid advertisement, and like, this is my payment, okay? And if you have a product that you want to see featured on my channel, well, just get in touch with me. I'll post the email right down here below, and send me a product, and leave it alone. That's pretty much it. You send me a product, I'm going to make a video on it. I'm going to tell everybody the good and the bad of it, and I get to keep the product. I'm not taking payment. The product's my payment. If it's good stuff, hey, it's going to stick around. It's probably going to get featured in a lot of other videos as well. So, send me your best stuff, and I'll send you my best stuff. All right? So, let's get into today's video. What, guys? 5-6 years or so, there has been a product that looks like this. I bought some of them. I tried some of them. They all failed. I had to redo all of them. As well as I can't get the package open. Okay, so this was supposed to be a heat shrink soldered connection. All right. The number one problem with that is that the soldering inside requires way more heat to melt than the tubing that is surrounded on both sides. And to save money for the product, instead of like these 3M connections, okay, that have adhesive all the way from front to back, this product has 2 rings, front and back, that are adhesive, and that's it. That's all that is in there. So one of the first things that we're going to do is lay a couple of these on the table aside from the Meltaring product and burn them down. Like, I want to know which one takes more heat. I want to watch that soldering and see which soldering starts to melt first. I know that the clear stuff from that Chinese product is terrible. So let's just go ahead and throw a couple of them on the table. We're not actually trying to solder wires together here. We're just going to melt them down. Okay, plain and simple, no bullshit approach. This is the Meltaring product in blue, okay? And just to go ahead and make sure that nobody has any problem with this heat test and says that, oh, well, you put more heat on that side than you did on that side. Okay, no problem. We'll put one of the cheap products on either side, and we're going to hit it with a butane torch. Now, no frills here. Let's just go ahead and see. Somebody start the clock. Yep, okay. So the clear has already shrunk, and oh wow. Like, that blue is getting all the heat. All the heat right there. We'll go ahead and stop. I don't know if you could see that on the video. Both of these clear ones are absolutely destroyed. The little pieces of shiny right there that are coming out of the tin, that means that the tin got hot enough and actually began to melt and solder. How hot that is. Shit, that's hot. Woo. Yeah, that was stupid. Okay. Should have touched it with something metal. But that tin, look at that. We'll squeeze that. That tin is still hot, and I can squish it out of there. And the tubing itself, is that's actually starting to set back up now. Did not deteriorate. These are junk. Look, that one flattened out and completely melted. This one did too, and this one was the first one to actually allow tin to come out the side. I now have a 3rd degree burn on my pinky because I'm an idiot. So on this first one, we're going to take some 14 gauge wire here. And I don't doctor these up. I cut them, I strip them, I throw them in there. Time is money. So all I'm going to do is overlap both of these inside the tin section, and we're going to start applying heat to it. Okay, I'm going to do my best to rotate it. Alright, now the heat shrink is shrunk, that's it. The tin, we're trying, okay, caught on fire, right there. That's destroyed. The tubing over here has melted. It's done. Like, it doesn't matter if the soldering connection worked or not. The tubing melted away. One, it's no longer insulated, and you can see by looking at the blue spun all the way around everything. You know, there's no adhesive there anymore either. Now, up here where the temperature was slightly lower, everything stayed intact, like it should. And the soldering failed. Now, actually, where I had 2 wires laid together like that, failed. Let's do it again. This time let's use the Meltaring product. Okay, once again, we've just stripped a couple of pieces of 14 gauge wire here. Same wire. I'm going to attempt to hold this. The worst part for me, we'll go ahead and roll it around best we can. Okay, the heat shrink's starting to hold the wire. Alright. The hardest thing for me with these type of connections is holding everything in place. Lots of times you got wires with tension on them, so you need a connection quickly, and that's my biggest problem with using a soldering connection. Now, I can't tell by looking at that. Everything appears to be okay. It just sparked flame, so that's a good indication I should probably quit. Everything appears to be intact. I can see adhesive coming out the end right here and right here on both sections, and right here in the middle where the 2 wires are laid together, I can actually see the solder in a bright color, letting me know that it is actually melted. Let's let that lay there for, I don't know, a minute, and come back and see what it looks like. Okay, so a minute or 2 minutes went by here. This is cool to the touch, and you can see it's rigid now because it's cooled off. I'll tell you what. Let's test this the right way. How about some vice grips? So, vice grips over there. Janky piece of pliers over here, and yeah, buddy. All right, that is a pass. That is a complete pass in my book. Close inspection, I can see soldering from there to there. Actually went back and filled the full 3/8 in between the 2 insulated wires. Okay, so I stripped each wire about 3/8, So that meant that there was about 3/8 of wire stripped in between there, and the soldering, it appears to have almost filled the entire cavity, fore and aft. The adhesive is full all the way around. Okay, so I know nothing about the product. We were able to, the very first time, just with some basic knowledge of what heat shrink does, okay, watch it to where you know it's hot. You saw right when it started to catch fire, I stopped and I blew the fire out. Right, this is actually pretty scorched. Hence the foggy color to it. But I wanted to make sure that we got that tin and that solder in there melted. We had a good positive connection right there. I like that. So one last test. I went ahead and I cut these out of their parent companies here. We'll just go ahead and move these over here. I'm going to set these side by side. Where's my little scraper at? Because I imagine these are going to blow. Let's go ahead and lay the heat to them and see if they are the same. Okay, the Meltaring is on my side over here and the cheap one's over there. I imagine these are going to melt at the same time. Okay, now if you notice, both of them melted very quickly. I am sitting on a piece of aluminum. Not sure that they're going to do anything more than that. All right, they are both melted. Any type of non-ferrous metal like this is going to have an oxidation ring on it, and you can see this one is a little shinier. All right, oh, it's already set up. They both did, probably because I'm sitting on a piece of aluminum. See the Meltaring product, I flipped it over and it's a little shiny. Let's put a little bit more heat to it. There, it immediately went to liquid. Well, actually melted them together into one glorious pile. Okay, epic fail on that. You saw both of them just kind of collapse, right? Non-ferrous materials will have an oxidation layer, and that oxidation layer typically burns hotter than the material itself, just like aluminum, all right? And since there was nowhere, like it couldn't run, it was sitting on a level piece, they just kind of laid down and, you know, made a little bubble. They were melted. They didn't look shiny like solder normally does until we actually hit that with our scraper here, and they both come in and actually made one puddle. Wasn't planning on that. I am impressed with the one piece here that we did with the mini torch, little butane torch. Butane torches are awesome, but they do require adult supervision, okay? You put it on something for more than 2 seconds, chances are it's going to be on fire. I don't know what the temperature rating is on that thing, but she hot, son. That's why you want to kind of go in a fan motion and then roll the product around to evenly distribute the heat. Now, once the heat shrink is done on both sides, you can kind of focus that heat right in the center to make sure that you see that tin melt around there. And you should be golden. What we learned from the tin melting section is that both of the solders in both products are probably the same material, meaning that they probably melt at the same time. That's why we wanted to do that test. It is common practice for using crimp connections and the 3M stuff and all of the triple heat shrink tubings is to use a heat gun. I don't have a 110 heat gun since I'm in and out of boats and doing all kinds of stuff. I found the Bauer rechargeable one. It takes a little bit longer to build up heat. A little bit longer means that you have a lot of control on where you pinpoint the heat and how hot the product actually gets. But like I said, this product is engineered for the little butane torch. But let's just go ahead and make another connection here. We'll go ahead and strip some wires. All right. And let's use the new Meltaring product with a heat gun. All right. Now, I'm just gonna lay this right here on the table. You can see with a heat gun that it will heat up one side of the tubing and not the other side. That's how controlled the heat is. So I really don't know. I'm going to guess. Let's just say that that tubing starts to melt at 200, 300 degrees. Well, the heat coming out of the heat gun is probably only, 300 or 400 degrees. So it takes a little bit longer, and you're in a little bit more controlled scenario using the heat gun. Now, in using the product, you can see that once it gets hot and the adhesive starts to melt, the tubing becomes clear. It's actually a good test because we can actually see the temperature change in everything. Right there, did you see that? Nice and close. If you look on the lower part of the screen of the solder, it actually became liquid form. And it's liquid all the way around there now. Okay, I'm going ahead and cut it off. Let's just go ahead, see what we can get away with here. I'm twisting that quite a bit, moving it around. It has a little bit of movement to it, but it's not wanting to just tear apart. So once again, we'll leave that there for a minute. Now, since we didn't get it super hot with the butane torch, it's probably going to take a little less time for that to cool off. But if it's shiny and it looks wet, it is. Don't touch it. Okay, product is has a cloudy look to it now. Tells me that it's cool enough to touch. We'll go ahead. Okay, it's warm. Like I can hold my hand on there and it is warm. I wouldn't say that it's hot. Go ahead and pull on it here. Looks like another adequate connection. I like it. So that tells me that the heat gun or the butane torch, either one, is going to be adequate. Before we leave today, let's talk about one little thing. So on a crimp style butt connector, you typically have a pair of pliers like this for stripping and for crimping the connection. The only problem with that is that pair of pliers could possibly put a dent, which could end up into a hole once you put the heat to it. That dent pulls apart at a different rate than the rest of the sheathing, and now you've got an open place in your sheathing. Well, it's no longer watertight anymore, which will allow water, weather, and debris in there to where it'll corrode and eventually fail. Now, even though that will take a long time, it's possible. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, more so with a crimp style connection. With a soldering connection, there is less amperage loss because instead of a crimp connection that has multiple contact points and uses the ring, which is metal, to actually carry amperage across there, a soldering connection actually welds the two pieces together, and all that soldering just goes in between every little strand of wire. And instead of having two pieces that are held together by a third piece, now it is all melted and welded together as one piece, minimizing the amperage loss across that connection. You accompany that with the adhesive and the quality 3-to-1 heat shrink that they've put on there. You got a winner. I like it. Meltaring, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the endless emails, sir. Things have been kind of hectic around here, but as promised, we are within the 2-week window that I promised once receiving the product. So 150 pieces in this set. Link in the description to Amazon. The yellow you get 36, the blue you get 66, and the red you get 48. So if you're familiar with any wiring at all, you know what that means. 150 pieces in this set. Pretty good price point too. Definitely some of the highest quality of connections that I have seen through this shop, and I'm definitely going to say that this product will be used again here on the channel and in my shop. So Meltaring, thank you for sending me the product. Guys, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, smash the like if that's what you're into, and share the product with a friend. Come back and see me on the next one. We're getting ready to shoot it real soon, so y'all be good.